Hello, world. Welcome to the Breaking Free Show. I hope you're all doing well today and prospering and enjoying your life. And I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your moments with us. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I know you all have a lot to do, so it's an honor to have you here. So thank you so much. And I just want to say hi to Amnon before we get
Hello,
started.
Marilyn. How are
How
you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm fine.
Are you feeling better?
Yeah.
You've been not under the weather, but under it.
Um,
But you're doing
it's
better.
yeah.
Good. Well, we're glad. I'm thrilled. Love me some Amnon. Okay. So before we get started, let me just give you the rules, the guidelines. There are none. All I need you to do is call in anytime you want. If you want to comment, ask questions, whatever you like to my guest and to me, the number is 919-518-9773. Or you can come in on Skype voice, and that would be to computers, that's plural, then the number 2K voice. And you can also join us in our chat anytime you like. Come in, comment, ask questions. Be curious today. That would be a good day for you to be curious. Just go in there, put your name, nickname, whatever you like, and you can comment, ask questions, and we will see you and we will invite you in and your words, and we'd love to have you. Okay, here we go. Here's my guest today, Ellen Schaffer. Ellen is a animal communicator and an energy healer. What a combo. Ellen, welcome.
Thank you, Marilyn. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank God.
Good, good, good. Ellen and I've known each other for a little while, I would say. Just
Yep.
just a little while. So tell everybody what you do.
Well, like you said, I'm an animal communicator and an energy healer. So I spend most of my days working remotely with animals all around the world and also with people. So it's very similar, actually, what I do with animals and people, in that helping to release issues, whether they're physical, emotional, or behavioral patterns that we have. Both us and the animals can release all of that through energy. And also, the animals, through talking, can release so much of what they want to let go of, even just emotions or changing behaviors through communication. And the fun part is you get to listen to your animal, you get to know your animal better, you get to have relationships that are stronger. So it's just, I'm delighted to be able to do what I do.
Well, and who what do you mean by talking?
Literally talking. Well, it's intuitive communication,
Okay.
which means I get to send messages back and forth intuitively or mentally. Like I think something and I send it to an animal and I receive it back.
Okay.
That type of talking.
Okay.
But I also teach people to talk out loud to animals so that they'll understand. And so even though you're not receiving a message back most of the time, they're understanding everything that you say. So I teach, that's a fun class to teach, and blows people's minds when they get responses from their animals and they don't even know what they're receiving back from them. It's
So
fun.
first of all, how do you know that they're understanding you?
Uh, you don't always have proof. I'll give you
Okay.
that. But when you ask, I'll give you an example. I was talking to my cat Herkimer one day and I said, "Hey, is there anything that you want?" And she said, "Can you put the blue bed on top of the chest freezer that we have?" And I'm like, "Sure, that's kind of odd, but let me do it." And as soon as I did it, this cat who doesn't like heights flew up there and like for a week spent time just loving being in that bed. I'm like, okay, I guess that really came from her because I wouldn't have thought to do it and I wouldn't have made that up. And she's completely enjoying it. So you get that kind of proof.
Wow.
But more often, what you see is, um, let's say, an animal has often like a dog will excuse me, bark too much at the front door or get really scared when the doorbell rings. And so I'll ask the animal what they need, what's going on, what do they feel like at that time. And with the information I get and what they choose that they want to do at that time or what they need from their person, and then the person does those things and the behavior stops and the animal is calm again and it's just gone.
So is it
So
immediate like that? I mean, can you hear? Can you can okay, so is it immediate?
if you're asking if the results are immediate,
Mhm.
usually they are. The conversation is beyond immediate. So I can still be asking a question and already be receiving the answer. It's that quick.
So how did you get started in all this?
Honestly, I read a book.
All right, hope for all you book readers.
Yes. So I was already along the path. I was already energy healer and open to all these things and reading books. And I came across a book by Marta Williams, who I later studied with. And it was Learning Their Language is the name of the book. And I was like, animals talk? What's this? I thought it was so bizarre. I'm like, well, let me read it. What is it? And she spelled it out very nicely what animal communication is and that we all have the ability to do it. And then there were exercises in the book. So I happened to be at my friend's farm that week while I was reading the book. And I said, let me go up to the horses and see. And I asked some questions and got immediate response and confirmation of what I was asking them. And just blew my mind. So then I wanted to read everybody's experience and started practicing with every animal and friend I could. And found it came easily. I still have to work at it and get over my ego and some fears and, dealing with, different situations that might be tough. But the essence of it is easy and everybody I teach can pick it up.
So
So
what did you have to get over? Like trusting that you were hearing what you were hearing, or what?
yeah, so as soon as we let any fear get in the way, it blocks our intuition. And that could be with anything, not just animal communication. So, usually we have fears, am I making this up? Or I'm not going to hear this correctly. Or for me, it was that the information an animal was going to give me would be difficult to deliver to the person. So whether it's an end of life situation and they're ready to pass on, but the person isn't ready, I wasn't sure I was ready to deliver that message. Or um, sometimes the animals needed something that the people weren't ready to give at that point, so like something in their care or something to change that the people weren't ready for.
So based on what you've heard from animals, and we haven't fine-tuned yet which animals, but based on what you've heard from the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
what's the intelligence level of
Oh,
animals?
I have a feeling that they're like us and that
Ooh.
they're the geniuses of the world and they're the ones who, are smart, but they just want to play. Right? And some animals will actually tell me, yeah, I can do X, Y, and Z, and I'm good at that, but I just want to have fun in this lifetime. I don't want to be bothered by those things. And others are like, please give me a job, give me more of a job because, I'm bored or I can do more, I can have more responsibility. Um, and others want you to know just how smart they are and what they can do and or how wise they are and what messages they have for you. So I think it runs the gamut and the personalities are so different, just like we are.
And does it run the gamut cross breeds, or are certain things, breed designated per breed?
Well, that's a great question.
I thought it was good too, and it just came, and
Yeah,
I'm like, whoa, that's really a good question. What animal is it telling me that? That was a whatever animal, that was good.
that was great. Um, Gosh. All right. So, from my experience of just a few
Uh-huh.
years, I work primarily with people's um, pets or barn animals or livestock. And that seems to be very similar to how we are on the gamut. Sometimes when I talk to whales or bees or, just wildlife, they seem to have this otherworldly intelligence. Um, I don't know if that's just my fascination of, wow, I've never talked to a bee or a wasp or something like that before. Um, so the conversations seem to be different versus, or it's just that I'm trying to solve a specific problem when I'm working with the client's animal.
Mhm.
So we're going down a certain path versus, hey, bee, tell me what you know about the world or what's it like to fly. And so maybe the
Mhm.
conversations are different. Um, Not entirely sure.
Mhm.
But I will say, when I work with horses, a lot of times I've heard it referred to as a horse consciousness tends to come in. So maybe talking to one horse, but I feel like there's thousands of horses around me also pitching in on the conversation and wisdom and things come through that just are different.
Hmm.
Like they're all connected to each other. which I'm sure that they are. But
So you become part of their conversation.
yes,
Uh-huh. And are you hearing things from animals whereby, let's say, they were a person in a past life? Does that ever come up?
I have not.
Okay. Is that possible? I guess anything's possible.
I don't know. Being Jewish, we don't think that that's possible. Like an animal is an animal, and a person is a person because the souls are different. Does that mean it hasn't happened? I don't know.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
we'll see. I, d-
mm,
I don't, I do talk to animals sometimes about their past lives and their future lives,
uh-huh,
but primarily it's what do we need to know now in this life to help you? And
mhm,
when we go back to a past life, it's usually because there's a trauma or something we're trying to fix, or to help, or to, it's not to fix, but to heal. Like what happened to you before that you brought into this life that we can heal, very much like we do with people, right,
mhm.
when we talk about past lives.
And when you talk about healing with animals, you
Yes.
know, a owner will come to you with like for instance, I mean, years ago I had a Shih Tzu, and it was an older dog that we had inherited. And every time we went out, she hyperventilated. I mean,
Yeah.
she sat by the front door and hyperventilated. I mean, we'd come home and she would be drenched, and the stain on the floor just disappeared.
Oh,
So she would have been a perfect
yeah.
client to find out
Absolutely.
what had happened, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
So separation anxiety is a big issue. A lot of clients, and
mhm,
it's different. There's not one size fits all reasons why an animal has that fear. Yeah.
mhm. But
So
what
yes, I would.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
But you would be talking to the pet, maybe you would find out what happened, and then through that, you would be instructing me on how to, you know, console the animal, how to bring safety, how to protect, whatever that would look
Yes,
like.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I would ask the animal, what are you feeling? What are you thinking at that time? What do you think is going to happen? What do you need? And they'll tell you. They have lots of opinions on what they want to feel better and what they want you to do. So they'll tell you all those things. And then also, I would do energy healing, which I do remotely as well. So we want to take that fear that's locked in their body and in their cells in their body, and to release that. And then I ask them, what do they want to bring in? How do they want to feel when you leave the house? And so, whatever it is they tell me, we bring in that energy. Um, I do that using crystals, a very high vibrational crystal plus intuition. I'll also bring in flower essences, essential oils, and then these are also things that you can do at your home too. I can tell you which flower essences they've requested as beneficial, or which essential oils, and you can use them to support. I'll also tell you how to talk to the animal. Um, Sometimes it's affirmation statements that they choose and they want, just to support everything that we've done to that point. So
Mhm.
the talking, the healing, most of it's already gone, and then you're reinforcing
Gotcha.
that good energy, that good feeling at home.
So how do people find you?
Usually word of mouth.
Mhm.
I also have a website, ellenschaffer.com, and you can book online. I teach classes, teach locally here, and I also teach online. So I post those on Instagram and Facebook. I try to market, but usually it's word of mouth that spreads the
Mhm.
fastest, or doing a show like this. Recently, I was on the online Animal Wellness Summit, and that was a worldwide presentation. So I did a presentation on animal communication and another one on using crystals for your pets. So those were pretty popular.
So are you doing anything that somebody else isn't doing? Do you have an insight that you feel is unique to you? Is it a way you see animals and you know, their mommies and daddies? I mean, what is it that you have?
That's a nice loaded question.
I know. I'm good with those loaded ones. I just don't like them when I'm asking myself.
All right. So I will say what I have is just unique to me. As what you have is unique to you. But
Right.
we can all do very similar things, and I think everybody out there should be helping the animals, in the ways that they have. So maybe there's no one that combines my level of crystal knowledge with how I do certain things and ways I've learned from other healers, um, to move energy so quickly or to ask questions quickly. But it, all the things that I do are abilities that other people can have and can do, right?
I feel the same way.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I'm a really good listener, and
Me
people,
too.
and people
You-
tell me that it's unique and not everybody can do it, and I don't think that's true.
I
There's
think you'd make a great animal communicator because you can listen and you can have a great conversation.
really,
Yes.
but that would not be who I would have considered communicating with, but I love to communicate,
Writers, I see, make really good communicators too.
right? And I'm a writer.
The automatic writing because they let the information flow. So that
Well,
comes.
then so maybe you'll work on me a little while I'm here. So my question, like, do you go out in the world and like I go out and I can feel things, right?
Yes.
Do you go out in the world and have to like tell yourself, no, I can't listen to all these animals that are out in the street, or do they just find their way to talk to you? I guess is what I'm asking.
I personally have asked for it not to be so open and flowing because, that just breaks my heart. And I can't, part of my learning is you can't save, that's the word I keep like the feeling that I need to save or rescue every animal or every person, that's not healthy for me or who I'm working with, right? Because we all have our own journeys. Um, so I've turned off like the automatic, but that doesn't mean I'm not cold to every person or animal who's in pain and want to help. So
So can you equally hear as a communicator? Can you equally hear what people are telling you and what the animals are telling you?
um, let's see. That's a really good question too. So you know, I animals I purposely tune into and ask their permission to talk, and we go back and forth, have a conversation. It would be different with you. I feel like I was tuning into you without your permission, right? Unless you came to me as a client and we sat down and we talked, and then all sorts of intuition comes flying
Right,
through.
right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I could tune into people, pretty easily, and I have to stop myself
Yeah.
from either making assumptions or tuning in too far because I don't have to. I tune in when I have to,
Right.
but I don't tune in when I'm not asked or
Exactly.
when there's not a reason.
And what I teach my students too is, unless if you're talking to an animal, unless you are comfortable going to the person who can help that animal and saying what you heard from the animal, it might be better not to talk to the animal, or not to get so deep in with the animal because then, if you're just say you're at a dog park and you happen to want to talk to somebody's dog, right? But you're not comfortable yet talking to the person associated with the dog, but the dog tells you they're sick or they need something or they're hurting or they're grieving. Now they've opened up to you like a person, right?
Mhm.
And you've broken their trust in people because you haven't conveyed that information. So what I see is no matter what they tell us, we have to be okay with sharing that. It's not like that's us getting our ego out of the way and communicating and being the voice for that animal.
Well, Ellen, do you think you would be able to communicate or they would tell you anything if they didn't want to?
If they didn't want to tell me, no, they
Right.
wouldn't tell
So you're not, whose trust don't you have?
me. I have their trust, but when students ask me, "Hey, can I just go practice on someone
Oh, 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 oh.
without them knowing I'm talking to their animal?" I try to ask them not to do, or I ask them not to do that until they're comfortable. So, as Marta would always say, this is a very diva profession because you're going to get more skeptics than you can imagine, and you have to be your own cheerleader, and you have to
Right.
be okay with not always having proof. And so people are scared in the beginning to tell people that they're an animal communicator or they're practicing. So that's a situation where um, they
Why do we need a person's permission to talk to an animal?
You don't. I'm saying you don't need permission. What I'm saying is you might break the trust of that animal, and that animal might not want to talk to a person again. It's like,
Oh.
well, I did before and I told them what I needed and I was in pain, but nobody listened. So what's the point?
Well, anybody could say that.
Hmm.
I mean, anybody. I mean, I have clients sometimes who are paying me and they'll say that.
Yeah.
So, anybody will say that.
Hmm.
It's probably no different.
Right.
But
No,
but you don't need a person's permission to talk to an animal.
no, it's just an ethical thing. Like, what's your comfort level? You know, but no, you don't need. You know, I've been to the beach and just talked to whales, right? No, I wasn't going to get a permission from
No,
a person associated with
no.
them,
Nobody owns them.
right?
I mean, and even in the ownership process,
It's not funny.
no, it's. I mean, and I'm fascinated by this. I mean, I believe in all of this. And not that I've had that experience, but I can't imagine it not being possible. I
Yeah.
mean, I look at animal people. I mean, Amnon and his wife Kathy, they're definitely animal people. There's no question. And I can look at them and I mean, they don't look at their dog like, ooh, a dog. I mean,
Right.
they look at their dog like, oh, that's my dog. Or like, that's my child.
Mhm.
That's my husband. I mean, that's a loved one,
Yeah,
s- you know?
they're
So
part
I,
of your family.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I don't doubt it I find it fascinating because I mean, I haven't probably if I let myself loose, I might be able to, and I probably can, like you said, anybody can, so I probably can too.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, so I find it fascinating, and you are certainly, you're kind of an easy person. You're not a person who, um, you're not a person in conflict. You're not a person who is uncomfortable to be around. So you're kind of, you have this softness, which I'm sure makes it more inviting for a person or an animal to be able to communicate with you, to feel safe,
I hope so.
right?
Yes,
So,
I would hope so.
so tell me, what are some of your best stories?
Stories,
Yeah.
goodness. So many. Let's see. Oh gosh. Physical, emotional,
Give me one of everything.
one of everything. Let's
Yeah,
see.
whatever pops in your mind.
Okay, physical. What came to mind first um is actually my niece's dog. A few years back, she was pretty old, and we had had a conversation. I don't know, probably a month before, and the dog's name is Maggie. And Maggie said she didn't want to go on hikes anymore because she was just too tired from it. It was achy and the ground was uneven and it hurt her paws. And so they said, okay. They didn't take her on any walks, but then a little while later, it was a really nice day and they were feeling bad for leaving Maggie home all the time. So they said, no, let me take her on a walk. And they ended up having to carry Maggie most of the way. And then by the time they got back, she was pretty lethargic. Um, and she wasn't able to get up on her own. She wasn't eating, drinking, going to the bathroom, and it's just pretty dire, I think. So I talked to Maggie and um, found out what she needed, and then did an energy healing for her because the energy was so dense and she really was just bone tired. That's what it felt like. So I moved that energy, and then within minutes, she was able to get up on her own again. And then she started eating and she was able to walk outside. So I don't know that that intervention, saved her life per se. Maybe it did. That's the stuff we don't have proof on, but she was definitely going downhill very quickly. But by changing the energy and moving out the dense energy and moving in fresher energy, um, it really literally helped her get back on her feet and live again. So that was a that was a
That's
good moment.
that's a good
Uh,
one.
mhm.
And what else? What other ones?
One of my favorite stories is a client of mine had a horse. So this client was a skeptic, but no longer a skeptic. But she was at her wits' end. Her horse, who she had for maybe a year or so, had they never really formed a bond. She took good care of her and had many horses on her farm, but this one never bonded with her. And she was trying to get her into the trailer once, and the horse spooked and ended up breaking my client's finger. So that's why she called. She's like, okay, we got to be able to do something because now I'm really scared of this horse. She almost got trampled a few times, and then, she finally had something happen. So I tuned in with the horse, and what the horse told me was she understands that this person is trying to get close to her, and she might be open to that, but as wonderful as a horse person my client is, and as just such a lovely person, this kind of person that everybody wants to be around, just lovely person. And she's um, terrific working with all of her animals and rescuing animals. But this one particular horse found that even for her, her energy was too big. She said, I
Mm.
can't get close. So I said, all right, what do you need? And the horse said, she needs to just stand next to me and breathe with me. Not
Wow.
say
Oh,
anything, not have any expectations, just breathe. It's like, that way I can feel into her energy and I can get comfortable. So I relayed this information, and my client said, okay, but I'm scared of the horse. Like, I can't stand there and um, just breathe and relax. I said, okay, can you do it across with a fence between you? So she said, yes. She went out into the field right after the call and stood there. And she said, um, she was there for about 20 minutes. And right away, the horse started calming down and she started calming down. And then she said the horse, 2 or 3 times during that conversation, put her nose on my client's pinky, which she had just broken, as if to say, like to heal it or say, I'm sorry, or I love you, whatever it was. And my client said she actually checked in her all of her pockets to make sure she didn't have treats, that's what the horse was going after. And she realized she didn't have any treats, so it had to be this lovely gesture.
mm.
And then from that moment on, they really bonded, and got much closer after that.
Mm.
And of course, we also talked to the horse to figure out what she needed to get into the trailer, and so we worked on that as well. That was eye opening for the client as well. That as much as she knew and as much as she wanted to have this relationship with the horse, just the horse saying, "Can you just stand with me and breathe for a little bit?"
S-
Boom,
s-
opened everything wide open.
So are you in a state of awe when these things happen? I mean, no matter how many times you are privy to and privileged to be in that kind of situation, are you still in a state of awe?
Yes,
Mm.
I am.
Yeah.
And when you tune into animals, or when I tune in, I just feel this overwhelming love and gratitude from all the animals, even the ones who have things that, that aren't so fun to talk about. They still, they appreciate that somebody is listening,
Mhm.
and it's not just me; it's whoever asked me to listen to. And oftentimes that will change the relationship just by the animal being so grateful.
So
Just
what did
changes.
they do before, we got to this point of, you know, all these people who can be healers and communicators and crystal workers and energy this and energy that, before we knew all this existed? What happened?
You're asking me.
I'm just curious. I mean, in anything that you've studied or read, how did and have they waited for this moment when when the energy and the vibration and the planet is shifting and people are becoming more intuitive? I mean, have they been waiting for this moment, or was there something else before? Like Indians. I
I,
would
I
imagine Indians could communicate with animals.
Probably.
Probably.
I think many people before us had all of these abilities, and maybe even societies did it. I think because it's innate, I think it was always there.
Mhm.
And so there are probably times in history that it was so much more common, and then, you know, whatever it is, societal norms or something changes. And so that gets locked away. In the
Right.
same sense that I think we as children have this ability, and we have all these imaginary friends, and who knows, maybe some of those weren't imaginary, but we're taught that they're imaginary. Or talking to the animals, we're taught, oh, that's nice, honey. That's just, your imagination, and so
Mhm.
it gets shut down. But maybe it was always real, right? And
Right.
now people are able to talk about it, and also the vibration and everything that we're entering is coming back around.
Right. Good point. So how is doing this changed your life?
Changed my life.
Or maybe it
I
hasn't.
think I think we talked. My husband and I, we talked to our animals differently, raised them differently than before. was always kind and with love and, you know, pretty much understanding what they needed. But now it's okay, we really hear your voice and we respect what you need and just everything changes. You can't you can't put it back in a box. Like, you can't go backwards after you see how we're all connected and how much deeper these relationships can be and how much more you can do for your animals and for other people, sharing the space together.
Mhm.
So
Interesting.
it's eye opening.
Oh, really? I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I would love to just practice. I would love you to take me
Yeah.
somewhere and have me practice and talk to a horse. Um,
Oh, that would be
yeah,
fun.
that would be really fun. I'd love to do that. Maybe we can do that and then have you back on and share my experience.
That would be terrific.
Everybody out there, please feel free to call in 919-518-9773 or join us on Skype, and that would be voice, not video, at computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice. And you can join us in our chat and ask questions and comment. If you have an animal and you want to ask a question, call in. I mean, you're going to get one question, not 10, but one, but please do, because you might have that desire to, know something about your animal. And this is an opportunity for you to, ask that question. And Ellen is here to, to answer. Uh, so what would be like an experience you had that was not a good experience?
Not a good experience. In all the conversations I've had, I think I've only had two people who really just wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. So they would ask, so their animals needed something, a situation going on, and they were convinced it was because of X. And the animal is saying, no, it's because of this, and this is what I need. And they're like, no, 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 I know this animal is just manipulating you. Like, I don't think animals manipulate.
Mhm.
So it had more to do with what was going on with the person and the person's lives, because you could see it just from more things that they were telling me, you could see it had ripple effects in other ways. So it wasn't about the animal.
Right,
And so I got, so it wasn't
right.
necessarily a bad conversation, but it wasn't the typical.
So how much prepping on a human do you have to do pro you know, prior to, communicating with an animal?
I mean, educating them, that kind of.
Yes.
Uh,
Preparing them, educating them, I mean, if you're communicating, I guess the animal will tell you whether they're I don't like to use the word owner. What do you call them?
I say their person,
Their person, okay. Yeah, I just don't like that word.
yeah, and I'll say animals instead of pets.
Yeah,
But
okay.
sometimes pets comes out because it's
Okay,
easier.
so their person.
Mhm.
I'm sure they'll tell you if their person just, is one way or the other, but how do how do you get started with somebody?
With a person.
Yeah.
So I do offer 15-minute free phone conversations to answer some questions, and the typical ones are, how does it work? Which makes sense, and how can you talk to my animal remotely without, don't you need to be in front of my animal? So those are the questions usually people have, and to answer is that communication is energy, right? So it's traveling at the speed of light or faster, who knows? But often, I use a picture.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
ask
ask
you.
them to send in a picture. But honestly, I don't need the picture. I just need a description of what the animal is, and maybe where they live, just to feel that I'm tuning into the right animal. And I think that's more for me than it is for that communication to happen. It's just for me to trust that I have that animal in mind. But it's like tuning into a radio station. You just find that right dial, and boom, you're right there and
Mm,
talking to them.
mm.
Um,
Have you ever had it where you were not tuned into a particular animal, but an animal that you tuned in before comes back and wants to communicate with you? You don't, they just like talk to you. They call you from Australia and you don't even know it, and they have something to tell you, they have something to ask you, they want you to do something. Has that ever happened?
it hasn't happened yet, but I do tell the animals to reach out if they need. So it can happen.
Can happen.
So I know that's there.
Mhm.
More often, it'd be like the person just has suddenly has this intuition that I need to have a session with Ellen. So it comes through that way too, and that the animal gets, is they're in your head. You
Mhm.
might not feel it, but they're putting those thoughts in your head, like, hey, I'd like a treat now. And suddenly you think, oh, I wonder if my cat wants a treat, right? Um, so it could come that way.
Mm.
But funny enough, I have had instances where, one funny instance where there were two horses in a barn, um, belonging to the same person. And I was talking to both during the conversation, and I got very accurate information on both, but it was swapped. That makes sense. So I think I'm talking to horse A,
Right.
but all the questions really and the answers relate to horse B. And the person just started laughing and said they do that to every communicator I've ever worked with.
Oh my goodness.
So I think they were just playing a game.
They're adorable.
Mhm. And the other thing that happens in that term, the same, I'm working with a family of animals. There's maybe three or four in the house, and kind of say, okay, who would like to go first? And I think I'm talking to one, but then the other, like, no, 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 I'm going first. And so that animal starts to come in. So they choose and elect that way, and might end up stop a conversation that I'm already having and say, nope, I'm going to do this instead. And sometimes the animal that if nobody steps up and says, I want to go first, I'll pick an animal, and that one will say, no, I want to defer to so and so, or I'll talk after this one talks, because they're really the alpha in the house.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
It is very, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, sometimes I think do you forget which world you're in? Or does it, like, in other words, like I know I'm like, I mean, I talk to people, right? Or kids or people. I'm not tuning into animals right now, but you're tuning into animals too.
Yes.
So what does that do for your world?
What does that do? I look at things differently, I guess. I feel like it's my job to just keep honing my skills and talking to people and letting people know that this is out there, and that the animals really want to have a voice and want to talk to you, and that we can change so much that's not working for the animal just by talking to them. So I feel like I need to get out there and do that. But also, I've always talked to all the animals out in the yard, but now I might stop and try a little harder, or figure out, what's going on with the hawk in the yard, or um, I might ask we have ant problems in the front yard. Like, I might ask them to pick another place to live
And
and
do
try to
they?
communicate. Hasn't happened yet, but I know that it can. So we'll do that.
So, have you had any animals communicate with you after they've passed on?
Oh, absolutely.
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 Without somebody else, like without their person, or always with the person?
Oh, with the person. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of conversation is that?
Oh, it's usually very comforting for the person, right? We have a lot of sadness, grief. Sometimes we have guilt over how an animal passed or what more we could have done for the animal. So by being able to talk to them, and usually the animal, like, I'm fine, I'm good, you did everything great. I have so much love for you. I may or may not be coming back, and this is what I would look like if I came back, that kind of stuff.
Oh, they tell you
Uh,
what they're gonna look like when they come back?
yeah, if
Like
they're chosen.
like they are gonna be another dog, or they're gonna be
Hmm.
always another dog?
No, not always.
What do they come back as?
Another animal.
Another animal.
Yeah, it seems, in my experience, it seems like they're usually the same animal, but they don't have to be. Um,
Have you
and
ever
there's,
found it where they found each other? The person and the
I know plenty of stories and clients where that's happened too. Yeah. Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is fascinating.
Mhm.
So, I mean, dogs or cats, birds. What about birds?
Yeah, can talk to
I
anyone.
mean, because some of them already communicate.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, you can talk to the plants, you can everything.
are you talking to plants?
You can talk to plants, the trees. There's a lot of information
Well, I'm
out there.
sure, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and they are talking back to you. Trees are talking back to you.
If I initiate and talk to them, yes, we'll talk back.
Are there any, so you'll talk to any, what do you call, I mean, any animal, plant, tree, any being.
Yes.
Are you
Why not?
here? Go ahead.
Right?
What?
Why not? Right?
No, why not? I mean, I'm so if I walked in this, so but it's silent, right? So I'm not going to hear you.
Yes.
But do you ever just like talk out loud? Like, do you ever get angry at a tree for what it told you? For what it told you?
No, most of the time I'm apologizing,
Oh,
like
I don't blame.
for
Apologize
what
for
we
me
do.
too.
What we do, like, oh, I'm sorry you lost that branch, or before the snowstorm, I had a plum tree that had flowers on it, and so during that week, I was telling him, okay, there might be snow coming. It's definitely going to get below freezing. Try to conserve your energy. And I'm not saying it's because of me, but after the snow melted, the flowers were still there. I couldn't believe it. And again, I'm not saying I caused anything, but maybe in communicating, and if they didn't already know that the snow was coming or that somebody cared whether or not it had, flowers afterwards, maybe it would have looked different. You know?
Have you always been this kind of super sensitive person?
Yeah, I can remember getting mad at other kids in camp because they would squash the ants. I'd be so upset. Like it had every right to live just as you did, just because it's smaller and you don't like it. And they would just laugh at me. But some people listen.
Well,
So
I can see you as this really super, just really sensitive. And I mean, do you get easily get overwhelmed, easily get from from whatever as well, from the
not
energy, from the communication?
not anymore.
Okay.
It was a long journey to learn how to protect my energy, clean my energy, set my boundaries. So now I teach those classes as well. So anything that I have, I want to share so that nobody else gets as sick as I did from dealing with all the energy that wasn't mine. So I teach that. And now I get energized, like really energized from working with people and animals.
I bet. I
Yeah.
bet. Um, so tell us about your classes. So you're teaching these classes to somebody like me who
Yes.
has a pet or who doesn't have a pet or doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. When I first started animal communication, I hadn't had an animal in the house for 3 years. And as soon as I started, um, literally 4 cats showed up in our yard.
So you attract once you start talking, you attract. I don't want
Attract
cats,
them.
but
If you
but
want them, I was telling every animal I saw out there, if they needed a home, come to our place because we get a lot of strays out here. And
so
these stay.
what would be some of the things like if as a beginning student, me, I have
Mhm.
no pets. My daughter has two dogs.
Yes.
Um, I mean, I see Amnon's dog. She always comes and greets me when I come in. What would you do with me? How would you start me?
When I start with you, well,
Yes.
you're no different than a person who doesn't have an animal, right? You have the same abilities. So I would teach you how to communicate. And then you could practice with my animal, you could practice with Amnon's. I'll tell you how to practice, what types of questions to ask. I'll show you how to keep a journal. And this is one of the best things. If you keep a journal of all the questions you asked and the answers that you received, and then you mark them up. And this I learned from Marta, my teacher, that if you mark them up with the ones that you got right, the ones that were questionable, the ones that were definitely wrong, which surprisingly there are very few of, and then the ones that were wow, there's no way you could have made that up. And then you start to see all those wows and the positives, and that's how you gain your confidence by just practicing and keeping a log, because our minds are going to tell us, oh, we can't do this, it's too hard, or maybe I made that
Yeah.
up. But then you start to see, no, you weren't making that up. You can do this.
Oh yeah, I'm a communicator, so I
Yeah.
mean anything is possible. As I've said before. So like, what would be one or two questions that I would ask? Give me a sample.
Oh, to start off, a nice thing to ask is to an animal, what are the things that you like and what are the things that you dislike? Because that is something that their person would usually know, right? It's pretty obvious to them what they know, what they like or they don't like. And you keep the conversation casual like that. So, the very first question I like to ask an animal is, can you tell me a few things about yourself? Because that it's wide open, and they can show me anything they want about who they are, what they like in life, what their purpose is. um, and those are the validating ones. So then when I tell their person, um, your dog shows me they're so super energetic and love to run all the time, like, yep, that's so and so. And or um, your dog just loves to eat. So, you show me food, this is what the food looks like. And like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's their favorite. Or, your dog keeps telling me about pizza. What is that? And I'm like, yep, stole a piece of pizza off the counter last night. Loved it. So
Wow.
those are fun. Those are
It's it,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in a state of awe all the time with all
Yeah.
of this. I had a question I wanted to ask you, and I can't remember what it is. But is there anything? I mean, I'm very curious about all this. So, is there anything that I have not asked you about your world, communicating, healing, that you would like to share?
That's a great question. You're good at this.
I am good at this,
I
but I'm
wish I
only
could.
good at this because I'm listening, which everybody can do. Anybody can sit here and do what I'm doing. I feel that way all the time. Everybody can. I wish more people would take is whatever experiences they want without saying, well, somebody else does it. They're better than me. Just take any experience that you want and give it a go because
Yeah.
I believe anybody can do it. I mean, you might need a mentor,
Right.
but I believe anybody can do it. So yeah, I am good at it.
Good. Um, let's see. I would say that, let's see, when it comes to healing or communicating, we tend to think of using those or booking a session like that only if an animal or a person has a problem, like an
Mm,
identified problem.
yeah,
But really, it's something that we could be doing all the time, because don't you want to know how your animal's feeling this week, or what else they want in their life, or are they bored? It doesn't have to be a problem. I had a client give um, a session to their dog for their birthday, and nothing was an issue at that time. But the dog said, I've got this like little pointy piece on my collar here, and it's really bugging me. It would be nice if that went away. So sure enough, the client looked at it, and there was a little piece sticking out from the inside or the underside of his collar. She cut that off, and the dog's like, "Wee!"
oh my
So
gosh.
just, there are things that you can do, and then
Oh
also for healing,
gosh.
it doesn't mean that you're sick, and it doesn't mean that you're um, you know going through some type of trauma or emotional issue all the time. It can just mean, is your energy fully optimized? We're constantly um, our energy is constantly in flux between what we eat and what we see in the news or what comes through on Facebook. Everything gets into our energy field, or things people say to us. And if we're not constantly clearing that out or have that effect on us, and realigning our energy and our chakras, then we're not at our
Right,
optimum. And
right,
that happens all the time, even with me, just
right,
constantly working on the energy. So why not
right,
keep upgrading your energy and feeling better?
right. If you're weighed down and stuff, it's not going to work.
Right. Exactly.
So it would be really lovely if you didn't have to wait for the person, but that the animal, could find the intelligence or be told. Okay, here's another crazy question. Okay,
Okay.
are
I
you
love it.
ready?
I'm
Has
ready.
one animal told another animal to get in touch with you?
Oh, probably, but I don't know
Well,
that I
some
would.
animal is looking for that. Look, you know what? That's probably what I'm getting. I am probably getting that there's an animal that is wanting to communicate with you because why shouldn't they be able to? I know I'm crazy, but this is
Yeah.
coming through. What can I do?
Why,
Um,
right?
what? Yeah.
Why not? I think there's a reason all the so many feral animals end up in our yard. Either it's our past cat who used to live here, who wandered off, telling them, sending them back here, or our current ones. I see them communicating through the window. Where they should be running off or fighting, they're talking to each other. So
So maybe that's
things
so.
happening.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because I would imagine, or an animal would say, I wish you could get in touch with Ellen. She helped me and my person.
Yeah.
And then how, and I don't know how that would happen other than, um, you know, one
Well,
animal talking to another animal, talking to another animal, like the old way of playing telephone.
Telephone, right. Put it
But
out in the universe and see what happens.
yeah, but I would imagine that that would be something that, you know,
If only the animals could dial the phone. That'd be
if
great.
only they could do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, an animal that's already working with someone,
Mhm.
and I know this is getting really kooky, but if one animal that's already working with somebody told another animal that they did, then the animal that wasn't working with you could tell the animal that did work with you to tell their person to contact you.
Oh, they could.
I would just
Why not?
thinking, why not?
Especially in a barn where they're all next to each
Uh
other.
huh.
Why not?
I mean, it's possible. I know it sounds crazy. And if you're listening to the show, hopefully you are one of those people who just love animals and all of that stuff. And if you are not an animal person, but doesn't this just, you know, pique your interest? Because it does mine as well. So
Yeah.
tell us again how people would find you.
Okay. So my website is my name, which hopefully is somewhere listed here, but it's Ellen Schaffer, SCHAFFER.com. So that's the website. And I'm also on Instagram as Your Animal Healer. And if you go on my website, you'll see that I have classes in animal communication starting in just a couple of weeks. The next round of beginning animal communication is March 26th. So it's, let's see, 3 hours over 2 days. So it's March 6th and April 2nd. And in those 3 hours, right away, you're going to be communicating with animals. But in those 3 hours, you're really going to get the confidence and be able to do it. And then on April 21st and 28th, I have the advanced animal communication class. And that's where we dive deep into how to scan how to scan an animal's body for energy. And I'll teach you about 5 different ways how to do that, which is really helpful when trying to figure out what's going on with an animal emotionally or physically. I'll also touch a little bit on lost animals and show you how to see through an animal's eyes to help see where they are,
Mm.
um, to help give you information to where they are and help you locate it, which is phenomenal. So once you do that, it's so wild.
I mean, for a
You
lost
see the world.
animal? You mean if an animal is lost?
If an animal is lost, you can actually see through their eyes. What are they seeing? You can hear. What are they hearing? What does it feel like where they're walking? So apart from just talking to them and getting information, you can physically experience it. And you can do that with any animal. They don't have to be lost.
To be able to find
Teach
them.
that.
But if they are lost,
If they are lost, that helps quite a big deal.
and then what do you charge? Is that, I mean, for those workshops or?
Mhm. So these workshops are $225, and there's still an early bird special. Let's see, for the advanced animal communication, there's still early bird special until March 27th, so it's 190.
Okay.
But it's a really, compared to other animal communicators, I think the amount that I pack in and the very little bit of time, and it's still a lower price than most others. And you get me, it's live and it's online, so you can be anywhere in the world. And you get to work with other people who are anywhere in the world as well. So
Perfect.
we have a lot of fun, and it kind of blows your mind. Lots of wow moments. I didn't believe
Cool.
that. Look
Good.
at that. And everybody can do it. Really,
Yes,
everyone can.
I'm sure they can.
Mhm.
So, Ellen, I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me, Marilyn. It was fun.
No, you were wonderful. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining us and being here each and every week that we do a show and participating. And I know you're there, even if you don't comment and say anything, we know you're there. And I always thank Amnon as well for being the master of our buttons here
Yes.
and
And
our
I'd like to
sound.
thank
Huh?
you. I'd like to thank him too for helping me figure out how to make this work this morning when we're having some difficulty. He was very patient.
Yes, he is. So, with that, everyone, thank you so much for being here. We love you, and we will see you very soon. And just, when you're walking about, just take a moment and just look at an animal, look at a tree, see what you feel. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.